forgot to buy yours.
Tom laughed cheerfully when I questioned him. He must have deliberately not bought a ticket just for me.
Oh, Tom, you're so clumsy.
Sarah laughed so hard she was holding her side. Everyone was laughing, and it made me feel really awful. That's fine. I'll just go home. I sighed.
Yeah, you should. A fancy hotel doesn't suit someone like you, right? So it's actually better this way.
Tom was smiling.
And don't spend money on eating out just because you're alone. I'll be checking the receipts later.
Sarah said condescendingly.
All right, let's get going then.
Bob said happily, calling out to the other two, and they headed to the gate. How low can they get? I can never forgive them. I took out my phone and made a call to someone. I'm sure the three of them will be filled with regret. I'm Emily, and I turned 50 this year. Currently, I live with my husband, Tom. His parents, Sarah and Bob, live about a 15-minute walk from our house. I met Tom more than 20 years after I started my career. In my current job, I'm in charge of sales. At that time, I hadn't been meeting my quota, and going to work every day had been a drag. Naturally, my spirits had been low. In this kind of situation, sales don't come easy. Getting scolded by my boss for poor performance made me dread going to work even more. I felt like I was stuck in a negative loop. That's when I met Tom. We met in the sofa area of the 10-story building where I work. This building houses several companies, and there's a shared resting area on the third floor. During lunch breaks, the women from other floors would eat the lunches they brought. I often rested at this resting area when my boss scolded me. And it was one of those days where I failed to meet my quota again and was scolded in front of everyone. As I sat alone on a chair feeling down, Tom approached me.
Are you okay? You look a bit down.
Actually,
Even though it was my first time meeting Tom, I found myself sharing my work troubles with him. I think it was easier to talk to Tom because he wasn't from my company. Tom listened to me with genuine concern. After I finished talking, Tom said to me,
From now on, I'll be here to listen to you. Why don't we exchange numbers?
thank you.
I almost cried from Tom's kindness, but responded with a smile. I think I was already falling for Tom at that moment. After that, Tom and I became close. We eventually started dating and, after a while, entered a relationship. A year into our relationship, Tom proposed to me, and we decided to get married. Right after we decided to get married, I met Tom's parents, Sarah and Bob.
Looking forward to having you with us. Don't worry about helping us too much, just do what you can.
Sarah is a cheerful and kind person.
Once you marry Tom, let's all go on a family trip.
Bob said with a smile. Bob seemed like a normal person, which made me feel relieved. We both agreed not to have children. I married Tom in my late 40s, and having a baby now would be too hard on my body. Tom also agreed not to have children.
I want to live comfortably and be able to take care of my parents as they get older.
I wanted to focus on my career, so I readily agreed with Tom's suggestion. We bought a new house together. By combining our savings, we could pay for a small house outright.
I'm sure we'll be happier than ever.
I truly believed that. But I soon realized that was just a fantasy. Sarah and Bob often caused us trouble after the wedding. For example, they would show up unannounced. Ever since Tom and I moved into our new house, Sarah and Bob would come over without calling first. And they would point out in detail how I was failing as a housewife. Sometimes they would open the fridge or closets without permission and inspect the contents. They would then scream at me and berate me.
What's with this fridge? There's only cheap supermarket beef in here. Are you planning to feed Tom this stuff?
Sarah shrieks as she opens the fridge today too.
Even if you say that.
We used up our savings to buy the house outright. So we're trying to be frugal. That's why it's troubling when Sarah complains like this. I could only endure her criticism in silence. One day, Sarah and Bob came over again. Sarah, as usual, brought a large paper bag to take things from our house. At first, they came empty-handed, but after a few visits, they started bringing big paper bags. And each time, they would take a lot of groceries and household items from us. Everything they took came from my pocket. I was starting to feel more and more upset with their lack of consideration. As I was feeling troubled by Sarah and Bob, Sarah picked up a dress from my closet.
What's this dress? It looks expensive. Wasting money again, I see.
Oh. That's…
I raised my voice involuntarily. Sarah held up my dress, waving it around. Seeing that dress made me turn pale.
Sarah, please don't open my closet without permission. And this dress was a birthday present from my mother. Please, give it back.
I desperately tried to get the dress back from Sarah. In truth, this dress had been cherished by my mother, Ashley, for a long time. For work, my mother often wore famous brand clothes when visiting clients.
You're old enough now, Emily, so you should become a dignified woman like me.
She gave me this dress with those words. So I couldn't let Sarah take it. However, Sarah looked at the dress and smiled smugly.
It's too soon for you to have such nice clothes. I'll wear it for you, so be grateful.
But it's a birthday present from my mother.
I was on the verge of tears. Tom, who had been watching the whole thing, laughed and said,
If Mom says she'll wear it, you should be thankful. You're part of this family now. It's your duty as a wife to listen to her.
Tom always tried to make me give in like that. This wasn't the first time. On the first weekend after our marriage, I was summoned to his parents' house early in the morning and told to weed the garden. Tom said the same thing then.
It's tradition for the wife to do it. Get it done quickly.
Tom acted as if he was superior. But I wasn't going to give up the dress. When I remained silent out of frustration, Bob spoke harshly.
Tom married an older woman, you know. We won't even get to see our grandkids. The least you could do is take care of us.
Even though they called me old, I am the same age as Tom. Bob's idea of things being okay for men, but not for women, really frustrates me.
Yeah, Dad's right. If you understand, give the dress to Mom.
Tom nodded as if it was obvious.
This is terrible.
I felt completely alone in this house. No matter what I said, I was always the bad guy. Sarah happily put the dress into her paper bag. So, with tears in my eyes, I had no choice but to obey them. And the problem isn't just with Sarah and Bob. Tom himself also came with a big problem. Lately, Tom has been coming home late and hasn't been having dinner with me.
Hi.
Today, Tom came back at 1 a.m. in a great mood. His face was red, probably from drinking. "Hi, how was your day?" I greeted him with a suspicious look. Tom, not noticing my expression, spoke to me.
I'm going to take a bath. Can you put away my bag?
He handed me his bag and headed straight to the bathroom. "This always happens." I sighed as I took his bag to his room. Just then, I heard a notification sound from his bag. Tom left his phone in his bag. Tom usually keeps his phone with him, but tonight he must have forgotten it in his bag because he was drunk. Worried it might be an urgent work message, I carefully took his phone out of the bag. When I looked at the screen, I froze. "What is this?" The screen showed a message from a woman named Victoria.
I had a great time with you today, Tom, but it's late and I hope Emily doesn't find out. I'm worried.
Seeing this message, I was sure Tom was having an affair. There were more messages from Victoria. Some were quite explicit, revealing that Tom had been cheating on me for a long time. I took photo after photo of the messages on Tom's phone, emotionless. This was proof of Tom's affair, and I thought it might be useful if needed. However, it wasn't enough evidence by itself. I sighed. Plus, I'm already 50, and it would be hard to remarry if I separated from Tom. We don't have kids, and being alone now would be emotionally tough. What should I do? I could only feel lost, holding Tom's phone in my hand. One day, Tom said to me,
It's almost my parents' wedding anniversary again. Hurry up and plan the trip.
Tom acted like it was obvious that I should handle it. All right. I could only nod at Tom. Every year, we give Sarah and Bob a trip for their wedding anniversary. Of course, Tom and I accompany them and take care of everything. We always book the same hotel, and I plan to do the same this year. But then Tom said something unexpected.
Oh, and since it's their 50th anniversary, book a really nice hotel this time.
What? I was taken aback. The usual hotel is already pretty high-end. Plus, I pay for the whole trip out of my salary.
It's the wife's job to pay for these things and take care of my parents. My job is to have a good time and show my appreciation.
That's what Tom always says. So booking a more expensive hotel would be a big burden for me. Seeing my hesitation, Tom said irritably,
It's their 50th anniversary. Don't you have any respect for my parents?
Tom kept going on and on about how I lacked the proper attitude as a wife. All right. Tired of his lecture, I just said that to end the conversation. When it came to a higher grade hotel than usual, only one came to mind. The booking method for this hotel was a bit unique. After successfully making the reservation, I told Tom, I've booked the hotel. Tom sneered and said,
It better be up to my standards. If it's a crappy hotel, I won't forgive you.
Tom was trying to find fault with a mean look on his face. I sighed and replied, It's a bit far. We'll need to fly, but it's a really nice hotel. Look, I'm sure you'll like it. I showed Tom the hotel's website on my phone, and he nodded in satisfaction.
Well, this will do. Did you book the flights too?
Not yet, but it shouldn't be a problem. It's off-season, and it's a weekday, so the flights should be available. Tom then said something unexpected.
I'll book the flights for us.
Tom, who had never taken any initiative before, suddenly made this offer. Surprised, I asked. Really? Tom smiled.
Yeah, you've been working hard, Emily. I can handle booking the flights. Thanks for everything.
Thank you too. I sincerely thanked Tom. I thought maybe Tom was finally becoming more cooperative. Maybe Tom is starting to change. I had high hopes. But this decision would end up causing a major upheaval. On the day of the trip, Tom went to pick up Sarah and Bob first, and I was supposed to meet them at the airport. Sorry to keep you waiting. As I arrived carrying both my and Tom's luggage, I saw the three of them already at the meeting spot. And for some reason, they were all grinning. I had a bad feeling. When I looked at what they were holding, I saw that each of them had a plane ticket. I turned to Tom and asked, "Can I have my ticket?" Tom then said something unbelievable.
I forgot to buy yours.
He laughed cheerfully. Just mine? In disbelief, I asked Tom.
Yeah, I made sure to get Mom and Dad's tickets though.
He just kept grinning. In that moment, I realized he must have intentionally not bought my ticket.
Oh, Tom, you're so clumsy.
Sarah laughed so hard she was holding her side. Everyone was laughing, and it made me feel really awful. That's fine. I'll just go home. I sighed and said,
Yeah, you should. A fancy hotel doesn't suit someone like you, right? So it's actually better this way.
Tom was smiling.
And don't spend money on eating out just because you're alone. I'll be checking the receipts later.
Sarah said condescendingly.
All right, let's get going then.
Bob said happily, calling out to the other two, and they headed to the gate. How low can they get? I can never forgive them. I took out my phone and made a call to someone. Then, I quickly bought a plane ticket for a different flight from theirs. I was sure the three of them would regret this. At 3 p.m. that day, I got a call. Since my phone was on silent, it didn't make a sound, but it was Tom calling. Just as I thought. I smiled and ignored the call. The truth is, their flight was in the morning. Check-in is at 3 p.m., so they'll probably enjoy some sightseeing first. While they were doing that, I headed to the luxury hotel we had booked. I approached a certain person waiting for me at the hotel. "Mom, sorry for the sudden change." The person was my mother. I apologized to her as soon as I saw her.
Really, Emily, what are you doing? You booked such a high-end hotel, and now you suddenly can't stay.
She asked, exasperated. Actually, I explained everything that Tom and his parents had done. I also told her about how Sarah took the dress she had given me. Hearing this, my mother's face clearly showed her anger.
This is absolutely unacceptable. We'll get that dress back too.
So my mother and I started planning. We also asked the hotel staff for their cooperation. Once we had a plan, the three of them arrived at the hotel. I spotted Tom and discreetly hid behind the front desk. Tom, not noticing me at all, approached the reception with a big smile. Sarah and Bob were also in high spirits behind him.
I'm Tom with the reservation for 3 p.m.
I don't see Miss Emily with you.
The hotel staff responded with a puzzled expression. The reservation was in my name. So this was a normal response. Tom seemed to understand this and didn't appear suspicious. He proudly explained,
Emily got sick suddenly and couldn't make it. It's not a problem, right? Someone else will be joining us later instead of Emily, so we won't be making any cancellations.
I had a good idea of who he meant by someone else, but I stayed quiet. The hotel staff smiled and said,
If Miss Emily isn't present, you cannot use the reservation.
What?
The three of them froze at the hotel staff's sudden declaration. Tom repeatedly tried to call me. He must be really upset. Sarah quickly approached him.
What do you mean we can't use the reservation? Emily made it for us. We came all this way by plane.
Sarah looked visibly confused.
We're here to celebrate, so please make an exception.
Tom tried to persuade the staff. The hotel staff sighed.
If you insist, you can use the reservation, but you'll have to pay an additional fee.
What? What additional fee?
Tom asked, surprised. The hotel staff glanced at a woman sitting nearby.
Madam, perhaps it's time to reveal the truth?
Yes, I'll handle it. Thank you.
Sarah looked puzzled as the hotel person spoke with an unknown woman.
Who is that woman? Why is she wearing those dark sunglasses?
Sarah began to ask, but the next moment she was at a loss for words, because she recognized the woman.
Ashley, what are you doing here?
Sarah asked, confused. My mother had only met Sarah and Bob at the family-only wedding. My mother smiled and replied,
It's been a while. By the way, where is Emily?
She's not feeling well.
Tom tried to stick to his lie. My mother sighed at Tom.
Don't lie. I just spoke to Emily on the phone, and she seemed fine. Also, Emily used our company's benefits to book this hotel. If she's not here, you'll have to pay the regular rate.
Tom, Sarah, and Bob started to look visibly confused by my mother's words.
What?
It'll be about 70% more. Can you afford that?
My mother smiled slyly.
What do you mean, your company? Emily never mentioned any benefits, and she didn't say anything about you, Ashley.
Tom spoke, sounding bewildered. He must be overwhelmed by all this sudden amount of information. Sarah also addressed my mother.
Are you saying your company provides these benefits? Even junior employees get perks. It must be a small company with overly generous benefits.
Sarah's sharp words made my mother frown. I had never told them much about my mother. They never asked, so I never mentioned it. That's why my mother's next words shocked them.
Me? I'm the CEO of the Johnson Group. By the way, Emily is set to be the next CEO.
My mother smiled warmly.
The Johnson Group, that's a huge company.
Sarah shouted. Bob and Tom also looked extremely surprised. The Johnson Group is one of the leading travel companies in the country. They also run hotels and restaurants, covering a wide range of services. In fact, this hotel is also part of our group. That's why we can use it at a discounted rate. The Johnson Group is hereditary, with our family passing down the leadership through generations. Currently, my mother is the CEO of the Johnson Group.
I know the company Emily works for, and it's not the Johnson Group. Ashley, are you trying to lie and deceive us?
Tom glared at my mother. Tom and I work in different companies in the same building. So that's why he said that to my mother. My mother laughed heartily and explained,
She is simply temporarily assigned to that company. Emily is part of the Johnson Group. She's done enough training, and she'll be returning to the headquarters in 2 years.
She tossed her business card to Tom. Tom looked at the card and turned pale.
Ashley, you really are the CEO of the Johnson Group.
Tom's body trembled slightly. Next to him, Sarah and Bob also turned pale. Bob is currently living off his savings and is unemployed, but I heard he used to work as an employee before he retired. He worked at a mid-sized company and retired as a manager, according to Tom. The difference in status between Bob, who retired as a manager, and my mother, the CEO of a major company, was clear. My mother continued her attack.
That dress. I gave it to Emily. Why are you wearing it? It's my special outfit.
She glared at Sarah.
I'm sorry. I'll take it off right away.
Sarah, now completely pale, frantically looked for a place to change. She quickly changed and returned the dress to my mother.
If there's even a single thread out of place, I'll send you the bill for repairs. Be prepared.
Yes. Sarah meekly responded to my mother's declaration. Then, as if remembering something, Tom muttered,
I need to tell Victoria not to come here.
My mother didn't react, perhaps not hearing him. But I didn't miss his whisper. I stepped out from behind the front desk and shouted, Victoria won't be coming.
Emily, what are you doing here? I called you so many times.
Tom was clearly shaken. So was Sarah, who nearly screamed.
Emily, you weren't supposed to have a plane ticket and then the dress.
My mother quickly interjected.
The dress belongs to Emily, not you.
Bob was also visibly rattled.
The Johnson Group is a much bigger company than where I work. And you're the CEO.
Tom said, sounding dejected. Being a proud person, he was likely hurt emotionally. I came on a different flight. I'm here to get back at you all. I smiled.
So Victoria isn't coming because...
I made sure she wouldn't. After you all left on your flight this morning, I called her. The day I discovered Tom's affair through his phone, I secretly hired a private investigator. Along with the investigation results, I got Victoria's contact information. I had planned to talk to Victoria directly one day, and I seized this opportunity to call her. After our conversation, Victoria made a decision. I calmly told Tom the truth. Victoria decided to break up with you. When I called her and mentioned the matter of compensation, she apologized. She said, I was only after Tom's money. She wasn't serious about a guy like you. From what I heard, Victoria is only 30 years old. She was with Tom, who is 20 years older, because of his money. She was attracted to the meals and designer items he bought her. Victoria clearly said,
Since he invited me on a trip with his parents, I thought it was about time to end things. I never wanted to marry Tom anyway.
Hearing this, Tom was shocked.
No way. This can't be true. I was willing to divorce Emily to be with Victoria.
Tom.
Sarah stood by Tom, who was in disbelief. Bob also seemed sympathetic to Tom. My mother and I watched the three of them with cold expressions. Then I gave Tom my final decision. I'm divorcing you. Now you can freely pursue anyone, even if it's not Victoria. The moment I mentioned divorce, Tom resisted.
I'm not getting a divorce. If Victoria's not in the picture, there's no point. I won't sign any divorce papers. Besides, you don't have any concrete proof of my affair.
Sarah quickly agreed with Tom.
That's right. We won't accept a divorce. Emily, you're going to be the next CEO of the Johnson Group, right? We'll be living an even more luxurious life.
Sarah's eyes gleamed greedily, which was disgusting. Bob also looked pleased. They must have been planning to rely on my financial support, but I wasn't going to let them have their way. I glared at the three of them. Then, take a look at this. I handed them the investigation results from the private investigator. The evidence was indisputable. The photos clearly showed Tom's affair. Seeing the undeniable proof, their faces turned even paler.
All the way here. How did you?
I looked at Tom and the others and laughed. As a condition for waiving Victoria's compensation, she agreed to testify in my favor for the divorce. If this goes to court, it'll be interesting to hear what Victoria has to say. As I laughed, Tom turned pale. His face filled with despair. Sarah and Bob also looked like they were falling into an abyss. I had no intention of forgiving them. I was prepared to fight relentlessly and drag them through hell. Eventually, Tom and I got divorced. Tom resisted until the end, but eventually gave in.
I'll apologize as many times as you want. Just please don't divorce me. If I'd known you were the future CEO of the Johnson Group, I would have never cheated.
Tom pleaded with me, but I was merciless. With the help of a top lawyer my mother recommended, I presented the evidence of his affair. Tom was speechless in the face of the evidence. If this goes to court, I might increase the compensation amount. When I said that, Tom turned even paler.
I'm sorry.
He hurriedly signed the divorce papers. Despite all his resistance, it ended quickly. Although I didn't demand compensation from Victoria, she lost her job. It turned out Victoria worked at a company partnered with the Johnson Group, and my mother had a word with them.
This isn't what I agreed to.
Victoria reportedly cried, but that wasn't my concern. She would likely struggle to find a job from now on. Even after divorcing Tom, the troubles didn't end. Tom and his parents started waiting for me outside my office building. Apparently, during the divorce, Tom's bad behavior was exposed at his company. It turned out Tom had been involved with several women besides Victoria. Some were even connected to him in hopes of getting promoted. However, my mother had connections with the CEO of Tom's company and revealed everything about Tom's conduct. The CEO was furious and demoted Tom. This led to a flood of complaints against Tom from his colleagues. Some even considered filing criminal charges. Eventually, Tom felt he could no longer stay at his company and resigned. And so he became unemployed. But Sarah and Bob were also not working, living off their savings, and couldn't support an unemployed Tom. Sarah had always been a housewife, and Bob had retired as a manager. Their income wasn't substantial, and their savings were running low. Without me, they couldn't maintain their luxurious lifestyle and were dissatisfied. So they teamed up with Tom and started waiting for me at my workplace. This is troublesome. I consulted the police, but they didn't take immediate action. One day, a decisive incident occurred. That day, I tried to ignore them and enter my office building. Then Tom approached and grabbed my arm. Ouch! Let go of me. but Tom wouldn't release his grip.
You've gotten too comfortable with us staying quiet. We're struggling without money. We're going to get remarried and you'll support us again.
Tom shoved a marriage certificate at me.
You just need to sign it. Do it for us and sign it quickly.
Sarah also grabbed my arm, forcing a pen into my hand.
Don't you even think about trying to escape.
Bob stood in front of me, blocking any escape. Enough already. As I struggled, I heard a voice.
All three of you, stop it right now.
The firm voice belonged to my mother.
Mom,
Relief washed over me, and I felt tears of gratitude. My mother had always been there for me.
security, over here.
She called for the security guards. Sarah and Bob tried to run away in a panic. Their fleeing figures were truly pathetic.
Don't leave me behind.
Tom's desperate scream echoed as he was left alone. Tom was caught by the security guards and handed over to the police. My arm bore clear marks from where Tom had grabbed me. Because of this, I filed a complaint against him. Although Sarah and Bob had fled, they would soon be contacted by the police. Their actions had destroyed their social credibility. With no jobs and no support, their future looked bleak. After that, I returned to the Johnson Group headquarters. After that, Tom's whereabouts became unknown. It seems he ran away to avoid getting caught by the police. Sarah and Bob went back to their home. As a result, the police visited their home to question them voluntarily. For my safety, I changed my workplace. I could have continued my assignment at the previous company, but I was going to return to the headquarters in 2 years anyway. My mother decided that it would be fine for me to return now instead. Life at the Johnson Group headquarters was hectic. During my assignment, I had gained experience in sales, accounting, and planning. Therefore, I thought I had gained a fair amount of experience, but the scale of things at the Johnson Group headquarters was entirely different. Each task involved figures of a completely different magnitude, so there was a constant sense of tension. Despite the constant tension, I had a strong ally.
Emily, we're going to visit our clients. We need to make sure they remember us.
On my way, I quickly followed my mother. The busy pace helped me forget the painful past with Tom and his parents. I was deeply grateful for my mother's support during difficult times. To repay her, I continue to move forward every day.